Welcome to the Alternative Football Coaching course. Hi everyone, and thanks for joining us. We have now reached Module 6, and today we are diving into session planning. Before we get started, let us briefly revisit our previous lesson on periodization, where the key learning outcome was understanding how to structure our season without overloading or burning out our players. In today's lesson, our learning outcome is clear: how to organize an effective 90 minutes training session on the grass. If you find these lessons valuable, make sure you subscribe, like, and share the video. And don't forget to hit the notification bell so that you never miss any important update. All right, let's get on with it.
All right, coaches, let's talk shop. Are we just running drills out there, or are we actually building better players one session at a time? Today, we're diving into the blueprint for making every single moment you have with a player count.
So let's start with a really honest question. Take a look at your last few practices. Were those drills truly developing skills, or were they, just keeping everyone busy? Answering that honestly is what separates the good coaches from the great ones.
So, here's our game plan for today. We're going to start by looking beyond the usual team drills. Then we'll break down a super effective 5-step planning cycle. We'll get into the nuts and bolts of session design, see it all in action with a real-world case study, and then we'll wrap up by talking about your impact. This is the roadmap, folks.
First up, let's get into why these targeted, individual sessions are, without a doubt, an absolute game changer for your players.
Okay, think about it like this. Group training is obviously essential, right? But it's kind of a wide-angle lens. It's great for the big picture, but it's tough to focus in on one player's specific needs. Individual sessions, though, that's like putting a magnifying glass on their development. It's targeted, which means learning happens way faster. And you know what else? It skyrockets their confidence and gets them to truly buy into what you're doing. Because this plan, it's built just for them.
So how do we actually build these powerful sessions? Well, it all comes back to a framework. In this 5-step planning cycle, this is your blueprint. This is the secret sauce.
This cycle is the engine that drives everything. First, you do your homework, the needs analysis. You watch games, maybe you look at some data, but most importantly, you actually talk to your player. From there, you set a crystal clear objective. Then you design the session, you go out and coach it, and finally, you review how it all went. It's a loop, a repeatable process that makes sure every single session has a clear purpose.
Now that second step, objective setting, is absolutely critical, and we can't afford to be vague here. That's where SMART objectives come in: specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound. But hey, here's a little pro tip. The biggest trap coaches fall into is making the goal about their ambition, not the player's reality. That A for achievable is probably the most important letter in the whole thing. It's got to be a stretch for sure, but not a fantasy.
And the difference is just night and day, isn't it? Improved passing isn't a goal, it's a wish. It's fuzzy. But a SMART objective, that's a target. It's a destination on a map. Both you and the player know exactly what success looks like, and you've got a clear way to measure whether you got there.
Okay, so you've got your SMART objective locked in. Now what? Let's roll up our sleeves and get into the nitty-gritty of designing a session that actually turns that objective into action.
A really well-designed session follows a few key principles. You have to be able to dial the difficulty up or down, that's your progression and regression, so the player's always in that sweet spot of being challenged but not totally overwhelmed. Your repetitions need to have a purpose, they need to feel like the real game. And of course, a little variety keeps things fresh, and it's crucial that whatever you're doing one-on-one connects back to the bigger picture of team training.
And the structure of the session itself? Super simple, but super effective. Just think of it like a little 3-act story. You've got your warm-up to get the body and mind ready, then you've got the main part where you're laser-focused on that core objective, and you finish with a cool-down, which is great for recovery, but just as importantly, it's a perfect time to reflect on what was actually learned.
I know this might seem basic, but trust me, it's huge. Your off-the-pitch prep matters a lot. Get your logistics sorted. Have every single cone, ball, and bib ready to go before your player even shows up. Do a quick safety check of the area. An efficient setup means less time wasted moving things around and more time actually coaching.
Honestly, it's a sign of professionalism and it shows you respect your players' time.
Okay, theory is great, but let's see how this whole thing comes together in the real world. We're going to put a young winger right here in the spotlight and break it down. So here's our player, super talented winger, a real speedster. But during your needs analysis, you notice something. As soon as a defender gets close, their crossing accuracy just plummets. Bingo! That's our specific problem to solve.
So what's the goal? It's not just get better at crossing, right? No way. It's this beautiful SMART objective. Just look at the detail here. 8 out of 10, a specific target area, a time limit of 3 seconds, under passive pressure. Now that is a clear, powerful, and totally measurable target.
And the session to get there is designed as a logical progression. You don't just throw the player to the wolves. You start simple, with isolated technique, no pressure, just focusing on form. Then you add a little bit of pressure, like a mannequin, to make them think faster. And finally, you bring in an active defender to make it feel just like a real game. It's a step-by-step process, building them up for success.
So we've walked through the entire blueprint, from analysis all the way to action. Now let's bring it all home and talk about what this really means for you and the impact you can have as a coach.
If you take one thing away from this today, let it be this. Following this kind of process fundamentally changes your role. You stop being just a drill sergeant, someone who just barks out orders and sets up cones. You become a development architect. You are thoughtfully and purposefully constructing a better player.
So, I'm going to leave you with a challenge. Think about your players right now. Who comes to mind? What is the one SMART objective you can plan for one of them this week? Let's stop just keeping them busy and let's start architecting their success. Now go put this blueprint to work.